So I see a theme going on when it comes to April and A24, as this is the second April in a row that they've released a movie with the name War in it. So I'll be interested to see what war movie comes out this time in April next year. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or depending on what time you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I just got out of an IMAX screening of Warfare, the new film by A24. This film is about a platoon of Navy SEALs who embark on a dangerous mission in Ramadi, Iraq, with the chaos and brotherhood of war retold through the memories of the event. And speaking of the memories of the event, so this movie is co-written and co-directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza. Now, if the name Alex Garland sounds familiar, well, he was the person that did the movie Civil War last year. He wrote and directed that. But the name Ray Mendoza may not be as much of a household name in the cinema world, but he does have a very important role in this movie, not just because he's the co-writer and co-director, but because it's his memories that this movie is about. That's right, the main character in this movie, whose name is Ray, played by Defero Woon Atai, is based on who the co-writer and director is. And as this movie says in the beginning credits, that this is based on memories of that person. I thought that was one of the strongest elements of this movie was the writing, especially just because of all the terminology and lingo that goes into not just, warfare itself, but the Army, military, Navy SEALs. It's just all the codes and the names and everything. I was sitting there watching it and I just felt like you could tell that this person had knowledge of these things. And of course he did, because he was literally there. One of the things I do really, really like about this movie is our cast. So we have mostly just a group of soldiers played by a lot of young actors. It's got a pretty well-rounded cast with some big notable names such as Will Poulter, Joseph Quinn, Charles Melton, and I thought I saw a recognizable face, and it was Michael Gandolfini, the real-life son of Tony Soprano. Those are just a handful of names amongst a pretty big cast of pretty good actors in this movie. But what I really liked, and what I think was represented well from Ray Mendoza's memories, is how he portrayed the soldiers, because obviously he was there, he would remember how these guys would act. But that's one of the interesting things about having something based off of your memories, is because the events of this is 2006, which is almost 20 years ago. And you would think after 20 years, you start to forget things. Sometimes your memories fade a bit. You think you might remember it this way, but maybe it happened that way. I just feel like the vivid imagery that you see in the movie has probably been in Ray Mendoza's head for the last 19 years. I think it's really admirable to be able to have an outlet to be able to portray that somehow, and I give A24 total props. Speaking of A24, just to talk about them real quick, I made a video a couple weeks ago because the last A24 movie I saw was Death of a Unicorn, and I was talking about how our A24 movies getting bad, because a couple of the last A24 movies that I'd seen in theaters, I just wasn't a fan of, and I just was wondering if their quality was going down. But I was hopeful, and one of the movies I was hopeful for was Warfare, and I must say, this movie is pure A24 at its best. I was engaged the whole time. I was absolutely captivated with what was going on. This movie doesn't have a crazy story. It really is just kind of real time in the moment of what was going on over the course of like one day. Like when the movie ended, I could not believe that it was over. I was expecting more, honestly. But going back to our cast, our soldiers, basically the people that we follow throughout this movie. So in the beginning, we see a little bit of goofiness with the soldiers themselves. Because again, these are just like young human beings, and guys like to joke around. And I just like that there was like little subtle moments in the beginning before all the chaos happened, where they can just be a little like subtle joke here or there, or just like a little subtle visual goofiness going on. And then that all goes away once the action actually happens. Another element that I really loved about this movie, and this is just something that I feel about war movies in general, at least good ones, is the tension. I'm a huge horror fan, but when I go see a movie, I'm more scared watching a war movie than I am a horror movie nowadays. And I don't know what it is about war movies specifically. I just feel like at any moment it could be that calm before the storm, but when that storm happens, like bam, it just hits you. It's almost like a jump scare in horror movies, but the jump scare is like gunfights and things like that. In the beginning, the movie lets you enjoy and relax a little bit, but pretty much once it gets to a certain point, like maybe 10 minutes in, I feel like it's just tension throughout the rest of the movie, which was really well done. It makes you fully engaged, like I was. But even just a subtle scene, like a guy walking to a window, you wouldn't think you'd be on edge, but I was, because you never know what's going to happen when that guy looks out the window. Could somebody be looking back at him, firing at him? And it is pretty quiet for a while. It's pretty, I don't want to use the word slow, but the movie does take a little bit of time to get to that setup. But man, when that action starts, it's nonstop pretty much throughout until the end credits. Another thing that I really enjoyed about the movie was just the technical aspect. So I talked about the writing a little bit. I did want to talk about the cinematography as well as the sound design. Now this movie looked really great. It actually reminded me of Civil War, which makes sense because it was both Alex Garland, and I think they also shot parts of this movie with the DGI technology, as they also did with Civil War as well. But the movie just looked outstanding. They do a lot of really cool like aerial effects that make you feel like you are like really watching actual war footage. And I think at certain times you see like photographs and maybe even certain things that maybe actually were real war footage. Now, one of the best technical aspects of this movie is the sound design. So knowing that it's a war movie, yes, there's going to be firefights and there's going to be explosions, but there's basically one moment where there's a really big explosion that really kickstarts a lot of stuff. And what I liked about that scene is that these characters are kind of coming to, and when they're coming to, like they are out of it. It's like, you know, ringing in the ears, and it makes you as an audience member also feel out of it as well. And there's this really great transition from being out of it and kind of little woozy looking cinematography and sound design to going right back to normal once they're back inside this house. And I just thought the sound design of this movie was really, really well done. Not just the firing sound effects or the explosions, but just the effects of a character not quite being there and the sound goes out and you understand what this character is going through in the moment. So anyways, that is my take on Warfare. Absolute triumph from A24, probably one of the better war movies I've seen in a long time, honestly. A24, you guys jumped right back on the horse and gave me something really, really good to watch. I honestly would even consider going to see this again. And I do want to say that for the people that were involved in the making of this movie, for the soldiers, thank you for everything. And Ray Mendoza, you did an absolutely outstanding job bringing your memories to the big screen. Thank you for that. All right.
See you, chump.